The weekend marked the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on this country. That precipitated an event which led to 20 years of the United States being involved in a war in Afghanistan. President Biden's troop withdrawal there continues to reverberate and raise questions and criticisms about Biden continuing to defend his actions, calling the mission to get thousands of Americans out of that country a success. We want to welcome in live this Sunday morning Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger on the Hill this morning. She is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And tomorrow, Congresswoman, you're going to hear from the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. What questions do you have for him about how all of this has been going over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I expect that members of the committee will have quite a few questions for him. And what I look forward to hearing from him, be it in answers to my questions or in answers to the questions of others, are some of the decision points that the Biden administration has taken, some of the thought process, the inputs, the status of why they made the choices that they made over the past few months. And importantly, also, I hope to hear from him information about the state of affairs when the Biden administration entered office, when the president took the oath in January of this year, what the status of things were working towards an ultimate withdrawal from Afghanistan, as had been previously negotiated under a former administration. I also want to hear much about the ongoing plans to ensure that every American is out of Afghanistan, and the plans for the more than 100,000 people who have been evacuated.
Congresswoman, let's talk about that for a minute, because I know you met with some of the 5,000 refugees at Fort Pickett in Virginia. What do they need right now? And is the federal government doing what it has to be doing to assist these refugees?
So I visited Fort Pickett in the southern portion of our district on Thursday of this week, and what I saw was a tremendous undertaking in just right at 2 weeks from the time Fort Pickett was identified as a location that could take up to 10,000 evacuees. Fort Pickett was housing approximately 5,000. The process was growing day by day, and we got updates in terms of what they need, computer-wise, personnel-wise, et cetera, but they were really building out the process for ensuring they know who every person is. So that's a complex assessment of biometric information, biographic information, a significant medical review to ensure that they have complete medical histories, to include vaccinations for everything from measles, mumps, rubella to COVID-19, et cetera.
I want to ask you about that, though, because earlier this week, the Northern Virginia Emergency Response System Executive Director sent a letter to the Biden administration asking for more money for the mounting medical costs. We have people that need to be driven to appointments. We have hospitals that are really been bearing the brunt. Does Congress need to step up and make sure that the funding is in place to support these efforts once these people have been brought into the United States?
I absolutely, Congress needs to be supportive of the mission of evacuating our SIVs, the P2s, and other Afghans evacuating away from harm. What we saw at Fort Pickett, and frankly, this was a significant concern. Fort Pickett's located in Nottoway County, and the region is a more rural community. The hospital infrastructure is not significant because it is meant to contend with smaller rural communities that surround it. So this was a primary area of interest of mine, my concern for what would potentially be stressors on the local hospitals and healthcare systems. And at Pickett, in fact, they've responded by bringing medical facilities and personnel right there to the base. They've erected multiple tents where they can contend with and work through kind of urgent care type circumstances that would typically send one to an urgent care or maybe an emergency room. And only the most emergent of cases and childbirth are actually sent to local hospital systems.
Have you gotten any sense at how long these individuals will be at Fort Pickett? Because obviously these are temporary living conditions. This was not the long-term solution.
That's right. So it's depending person to person. So notably, of the people who have already come to Fort Pickett, some individuals have been identified and were able to be confirmed as American citizens, legal permanent residents. There were a few citizens of Canada who've since been repatriated. And so they've been processing through those who already have legal status in the United States or should be moved to their home country, Canada in this particular case. They've already moved through. But the time frame will depend significantly on whether or not someone was already in the SIV process, how far they had been through the process. It is a comprehensive process to ensure that we are able to background track and make a full assessment of the individuals entering the country. So those who are further along should continue through the process, but those who are really at a starting point, it's expected to take a little bit longer. That's an issue of how fast that process takes, but by increasing medical personnel, increasing USCIS personnel, they've been able to already make some forward movements in time.
It's a large undertaking. Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, Democrat from Virginia, we appreciate your time this morning. It was good to see you once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.